This is question 17, and it's a question about histograms, and it says that we've got a histogram that gives information about the distances 8 competitors jumped in a long jump competition. So we can see we've got the frequency density on this axis, and it's the fact that it's the frequency density rather than the frequency that makes it a histogram. And we've also got the distance jumped on this axis. And what we've got to do is work out the estimate for the mean distance jumped. So in order to do that, the first thing we will need to do is work out the frequency of each of these bars on the histogram. And we can do that by multiplying the frequency density by the class width. So in this first case, that's from 6.4 to 7.2. So the actual width there is 0.8. And we can multiply that by the frequency density, which is on this axis here. For this first group, that is 10. So we're just going to go 10 times 0.8, and that gives us 8. So that's the frequency for this first group. And then we're going to have to do that for each of the groups. So we can see that the width of this one is 0.4. And if we project it across, we can see that that's 50. So for this group, we've got to do 50 times 0.4. And if we work that out, that will give me 20. So that's the frequency for this group. If we then go to the next group, we've got from 7.6 to 8.0. So that's 0.4 again. And the height of the group, so the frequency density is 100 there. So this group is going to have a frequency that's 100 times 0.4, which is 40. And then the final group is going from 8 to 8.2. So that width there is actually 0.2. And the height of the group is 60. So this one's going to be 60 times 0.2. And if we work that out, that is equal to 12. So those are the frequencies for each of these groups. And if we had it in a frequency table, we'd have something like this. We'd have the frequency, and then we'd need the midpoint in order to work out what an estimate for the mean would be. So we'd have a further column, which would be frequency times midpoint. So for each one of these, I can write down what the frequency is, and then I can say the midpoint is where the midpoint of the group is. So for that first one, it's 6.8. So that's my first values. So the next group, we've got a frequency of 20, and then the midpoint is here, so that's 7.4. And the next group, we've got 40 is the frequency, and then the midpoint is there, which is 7.8. And the final group, we've got a frequency of 12, and we've got a midpoint there. If that one is 8.2, then the midpoint is going to be 8.1. And all we need to do is work out what the frequency times the midpoint is for each one of these groups. So for my first group, it's just 8 times 6.8. We use the SD button, 54.4. And I'm just going to repeat that for each one. So 20 times 7.4, 148. 40 times 7.8, 312. 12 times 8.1, 97.2. And then for my estimate of the mean, what I need to do is add up this column here, which is the frequency times midpoint, and that gives me 611.6. And then I need to add up the frequencies, and that gives me 80. And then my estimate of the mean is given by the sum of the frequency times the midpoint, which is this. The sum meaning adding it up. So that's 611.6, and I'm going to divide that by the sum of the frequencies, so adding up the columns with the frequencies, and that's divided by 80. So just doing that on the calculator, dividing the total I've already got on the calculator there by 80 gives me that figure, which I want is a decimal. So I've got 7.645, and that answers in meters. And that's it, we've completed the question. So I hope that's been helpful to you, and if it has, please consider subscribing to our channel and also giving the video a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.